Hey, welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. It is great to be with you. Thank you so much for joining me. James will not be with us tonight. I did have a guest host scheduled. That kind of changed. That fell through, which that's fine. I get it. People have lives, so I'm okay with people getting a better offer, especially since this is an unpaid gig. So there's that. But I have a lot to talk to you about tonight. We have a lot. Let me just put my phone on silence here. Okay. If you are new to the podcast, thank you so much for joining me. Really, really appreciate you. This is my political podcast. On Tuesdays, I do a non-political podcast. We like to have some fun with that. Talk about other things besides politics all the time. That's also 7:15 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays, and you watch the same way live on Getter or YouTube. Remember, if you missed any old episodes, you can always go back to YouTube and watch them. Please do. I don't care if you click on them and let them run and you don't watch them, that's fine with me. Juice the numbers just a little bit. And of course, the audio will be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you would like to hear the audio from more of the political podcasts, look for Mary Walter Radio. And if you'd like to hear the audio from the non-political podcasts, just look for Life with Mary Walter. I don't know if you just search on Mary Walter if they both come up at this point in the game, but a lot of people are downloading the audio. So thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate you. If you go to YouTube, just look for Mary Walter and it pops right up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that. And please like the podcasts. Speaking of that, we've got some new subscribers, and I try to give a shout out to everybody. And if I miss you, maybe I did it on the Tuesday podcast. You didn't tune into the Tuesday podcast, but I'm trying to be really, really good with this. So a huge thank you to Teresa Satz, Dawn Messenger, Boyd Parks Jr., and Earl Carr. Thank you. Really appreciate you joining in. Now, also, since I'm thanking people in the beginning of the show, I'd like to thank our friend Pete, who sends me so many topics. He's amazing. Thank you to Eb for doing the graphics for the show, for social media. He's wonderful. And Eb's son, Zach, who is our absolute biggest fan. So thank you for watching, Zach. Appreciate you. So there's lots to talk about. First, if you're new to the podcast, we like to get to the comments. You can leave a comment on either Getter. Getter, I have to read it out loud, but on YouTube, if you leave the comment, if it's on topic, I'll read it out loud, but otherwise I just put them up on the screen so you can see them. So let's see. Bill in first at 7:07, and he said, finally first. Yes, there you are, Bill. Finally first. And if anybody knows where Al has been, let me know. I sent him a message on Truth Social. I tweeted out to him. I posted my truth. And I don't know where he is. So I hope he's okay. Same with James A. He's kind of been MIA on Facebook, in the Facebook group. There's a Mary Walter Radio Facebook group. He's been MIA there, and he hasn't been here at the podcast. So I do not know where those two are. So I get worried. I get worried when you guys, kind of disappear a little bit. So hope everything is okay. All right. Couple of things we're going to talk about. First of all, did you see news that was just coming across that the charges have been dropped against Alec Baldwin in the fatal shooting of the cinematographer Hayla Hutchins on the set of Rust, which was his Western movie. This comes after 2.5 months after New Mexico prosecutors filed involuntary manslaughter charges against him. Now, I'm sorry, but I think if this were you or me, we'd already be in jail. But because he's Alec Baldwin and he's part of the elite, elite privilege, of course, did anybody really think Alec Baldwin was going to jail? No. But if it was somebody else who's not part of the elite, yeah, I think we would go to jail, 100%. The Office of the New Mexico First Judicial District Attorney declined to comment today. The charges against his co-defendant, the armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed, are still in play. Of course, they drop it against the big guy, but the poor woman who's the armorer, which, by the way, they're both at fault, he gets to walk. Charges are still pending against her. The new special prosecutor team has taken a very diligent and thorough approach to the entire investigation, which we welcome and have always welcomed, her attorneys said in a statement. They are seeking the truth, and we are also. The truth about what happened will come out, and the questions we have long sought answers for will be answered. We fully expect at the end of this process that Hannah will also be exonerated. So, yeah, of course. So Alec Baldwin walks free because there is no justice in this world, none whatsoever. So there's that. So I wanted to share that with you. Also from Paul Sperry on Twitter, and Paul Sperry, before he got kicked off of Twitter under the old regime, had a lot of breaking news, and he seems to get a lot of scoops. And here's what he tweeted out today at 1:14 p.m. He tweeted out that ex-BuzzFeed editor Ben Smith now admits he knew at the time he published in full the fake Russia dossier. He knew at the time that it contained clear errors. That's a quote. In fact, one of his editors, Miriam Elder, warned, quote, "It is not just unconfirmed, it includes some clear errors," and he published it anyway. I mean, you've got people on the right who are being charged with obstruction and trying to interfere with an election. All the January 6th people, they tried to stop an election. This guy published something he knew wasn't true in order to interfere with an election. I mean, why else would he publish it in full at the time that it was published, right? Oh, but he's doing the people's work. He's doing God's work, so it's okay. Sherry's here. Hey, Sherry. Glad you're with us. Appreciate you joining us. Sherry, if you know where Al or James Anderson are, James A, please let us know if you've heard from any of them. So interesting. I thought that those two things were very, very interesting. BuzzFeed is imploding, by the way. They're getting rid of their news bureau because they don't need them now. They did what they were supposed to do. They made sure Trump was not president. They lied. They got away with it. They influenced an election illegally. They got away with it. And so here we are. So they don't need them anymore. See ya. Bye-bye. When do people on the left, and I mean people in general, people who are party people, when do you get tired of being used? Like at what point do you finally say, they keep making promises to me or they keep manipulating me in order to get my vote, and I keep giving it to them? Like young people, they're all in the tank for Biden. He promised them that I'm going to get rid of your student loans. He knew darn well he couldn't do it. He knew it was unconstitutional. He knew it was never going to happen. But he announced it just before the midterms in order to get all the votes, right, for Democrats. And they dutifully go along with it. And now they're upset and shocked that they're not going to forgive their student loans. They're not going to make somebody else pay for their student loans. Like at what point do you say, I was just used, and maybe listen and learn a little bit more, look into, and I'm not saying vote Republican. I'm saying just educate yourself about what's going on so that you're not easily manipulated for your vote. I'm not a registered Republican. I lean more conservative, and I think that's just because the Democrats have moved so far to the left that I'm now a conservative. I always considered myself kind of middle of the road. Like I believe that gay people should have the same rights as the rest of us. I just don't believe they should have more rights than the rest of us. By the way, I know I'm itching my face. My cat was on me and I'm allergic to him and it's shedding season. So I apologize. I look like I have like a meth tick of some kind, but I just have like cat hair all over my face and all over my clothes. And so I'm just itchy all over. So I apologize for that. But as I was saying, Democrats have moved so far to the left that I used to think of myself as a moderate in the middle, and I've voted Democrat in the past. And as I was saying, I think that, people should be equal. I don't have a problem with that. I think that if you're transgendered, you do you. I don't care. But your rights end where mine begin. You don't have the right to force me to participate participate in whatever it is you have going on. If you're a dude and you haven't gone through the surgery, you haven't gotten any kind of counseling, you're running around like Sam Brinton, with a bright red lipstick and a mustache, looking like a dude, but playing a woman. If you're cosplaying as a woman, kind of like Dylan Mulvaney, suddenly just wakes up one day and decides I'm a girl and prances around like a 6-year-old, and acts the fool, then yeah, I have a problem with you and I'm not participating in your fantasy, and you have no right to force me to do so. You have no right to force me to call you she, her, because you're not a she, her. And I'm not going to participate in your fantasy. That's just the way it is. You don't have the right to force me to do that. I don't believe that your rights supersede mine. But if you want to wear a dress and go walk down the street, I don't care. That's on you. Your choices. If people make fun of you because you have a full beard and you're wearing a dress, oh well. I'm sorry that that happens to you, and I'm sorry it makes you sad. But when you make choices like that, you do things like that, you have to understand that there's going to be repercussions, and not all of them are fair. I agree. People shouldn't make fun of you. I think they should just keep their mouths shut because no one asked their opinion. But I also feel that way about a lot of things that go the other way. So that's that. Okay. So, where was I? Okay. Elite privilege. That's where we were. All right. Now, I was talking about influencing an election. That's the word, influencing an election, and how BuzzFeed, the guy published it anyway, and BuzzFeed's getting rid of their news department now. And I'm so sorry that happened to you, but eventually you've been used. They don't need you anymore. Bye-bye. Kind of like women on the victimhood pyramid. They used women to get women's votes because we're the party of women. The Democrats are the party of women. You should vote for us, and we're going to protect women's rights. And then they vote against a bill to protect women and girls in sports because they don't need you anymore because they've moved on. They got power from you. They stepped on you on the way up the pyramid, and now they're kicking you off because now it's all about trans and it's about the LGBTQ. Same thing with Black people in this country. How you keep voting Democrat is beyond me. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand why women automatically just vote for Democrats. Why? Why? They're letting men take awards away from you. They're letting men take away scholarships away from you. Why do you say, yeah, but they support me because I'm a woman? No, they don't. No, they don't. They have zero interest in protecting you. So I think when most people think about it and they educate themselves and they start to look into the issues after being used a couple times for your vote, you find yourself you're probably maybe a little bit more aligned one way or the other than you think you are. But you can't vote. I can't vote Republicans. They're racist. I got news for you. Look into that too, because I think your morals and your values probably align a little bit more with the right than it does with the left. That's all I'm saying. I mean, the Democrats keep telling us the party switched, and I think maybe they did a little bit. Maybe they did just a little bit. Maybe Democrats are now the party of the elite and the rich and the party of men and sacrificing women. And Republicans are the ones who are standing up for women, and Republicans are the one for the working people, the working class. And Republicans are the ones who are for African Americans, for minorities, because they don't want illegals coming in taking your jobs. They don't assume that you're incapable of getting an ID, which is insanely racist, the racism of low expectations, and etc. They believe that you should have school choice, that just because you live in a crummy neighborhood, a poor neighborhood, doesn't mean your kid should have to go to a crummy school. They want to give you the ability for a better education. And Democrats keep saying no to those things. People need to start paying attention. Okay, so did you see this about the mortgage issue? So my husband came home and goes, "What do you mean mortgage issue?" So I wonder how many people didn't see this. So we're going to talk about it. It happened today. But the Biden administration is putting a rule in effect that starts May 1st. Now, I don't understand how this is legal, because what it does is it imposes a fee. In my world, fee is just another tax. That's all it is. A fee is a tax, like a toll is a tax. When you pay a toll on a toll road or a bridge, it's a tax to use that bridge or that road. So when any government institutes a fee, that's just a fancy way of putting something in place, a tax in place, without going through the state legislature or through Congress in this case. Now, what this is they're saying that if you have a credit score of 680 or better, that you're going to pay, if you have a $400,000 mortgage, you're going to pay around $40 more per month under these rules from the Federal Housing Finance Agency, FHFA, that will go into effect in 2 weeks, May 1st. So actually a week from this past Monday. And they're going to use that money to subsidize people who have a lower credit score than you who also want a mortgage. How could this possibly go bad? Did we do this in 2008? Did we do this already? People who can't afford it? So if you worked really hard and you live below your means so that you could pay off your bills, and like my husband and I never buy anything on credit if we don't have the money in the bank. Or if it's one of those deals where there's like, you don't have to pay anything for 6 months, the first 6 months, and then you have to start paying. Those are the types of deals we do. But I always pay my credit card bill. I have one credit card and I always pay it. I don't have like 10,000 credit cards because then I forget to pay. So I always pay it in full. So I make sure I have the money set when the bill comes due. I can pay it because I want to maintain good credit. Because my father beat it into my brain that you need good credit if you want to buy a house, to get a better loan rate, etc. So people like me, and probably you, who have done the right thing and gotten and have a good credit score, they're going to punish you now, and they're going to tax you about $40 more per month. Now, whenever the government starts something like this, you're like, oh, well, $40 more a month. Okay. Rah, 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 rah. The next thing you know, it's $50 a month. Then it's 75. And then as more and more people who have bad credit scores need help buying a house, you have to help them buy their house because it's socialism. And next thing you know, you're paying $100 a month more. And up it goes. This is what the government does. Costs never go down and they never get eliminated. So now if you're on the verge of buying a house, you're a young couple on the verge of buying a house and you have great credit scores, you now have to pay $40 more a month because you're responsible. And you have to make up, and people who are putting down like a lot of money, what do they tell you? 15 to 20%, always put down 15 to 20% when you buy a house. Oh, no, no, no. If you do that, that also counts against you. It's socialism is absolutely what it is. And I don't understand, like I said, I don't understand how this is legal. Under the new rules, say change the game, the housing market, as we know, is struggling because of all the interest rates from the Federal Reserve. So when Biden started out, the interest rate was 3%. It is now at 6%, 2.5 years into his presidency. So by the time he's out of office, it's going to be even higher. And so you've got that working against the housing industry. Under the new rules, consumers with lower credit ratings and less money for a down payment will qualify for a better mortgage rate than they otherwise would because you are going to supplement their mortgages. It's crazy. So if you've planned for how much money you need to put down for a house and how much your monthly payments are going to be, you now have to redo the whole thing and include your payment for someone else's mortgage. That's why I don't think this is legal. I think this gets challenged. I don't think this is legal at all. Sherry, that is insane. With insurance going up, I'm already paying more per month. Yeah. Well, don't buy a new house, Sherry, because you're going to be paying for somebody else's mortgage. Ain't that great? Ain't that just grand? FHFA agency director Sandra Thompson said the new rules are designed to increase pricing support for purchase borrowers limited by income or by wealth, limited by income or by wealth, and it comes with minimal fee charges. I don't think those fee charges are minimal to the people who are now paying to supplement someone else's mortgage. That's less money I can put on my mortgage. That's less money I can put in the bank. That's less money that I can put towards whatever it is I want to put it towards because I'm responsible. So once again, they're punishing people who are responsible. This happens with a lot of stuff. They're talking about that with Social Security because they're running out of money because they gave Social Security to everybody who came along. So they started, it was only supposed to be for the worker. Then if the worker died, oh, we got to give it to the widow. Oh, we got to give it to the children. Oh, we got to do disability. Oh, we have to give it to this one. Oh, you come into this country and you get citizenship and you're in your 60s. Oh, you get Social Security. So we started giving it away to everyone in order to win votes, right? And it was supposed to be in a lockbox, but they spent the money. So now they're talking about means testing Social Security. So again, if you were responsible and you put money away and you invested in a 401k or an IRA and you did the right thing, they're going to come back and ding you and say, oh, sorry, we're going to give this money to people who aren't as responsible as you. Sherry, I guess they really love 2008. This won't stop another housing crash. Exactly. Exactly. And Biden was vice president during the first one, and he clearly learned nothing during the housing crash of '08. So to me, the only silver lining is that if you're looking to buy like an investment property, if you're looking to buy a second home, like a vacation home somewhere, like maybe I live in New Jersey. So a lot of my friends have bought in Florida or are buying in Florida or the Carolinas or Georgia, something like that, to prepare for retirement. And they go down there in the winter and then they come back to New Jersey in the summer and they go to the shore and they spend the summer here because it's crazy hot and humid down there. It's awful. And they do that. Wait, don't buy anything now. Wait, because it's all going to come crashing down because this is untenable. This can't be. You're going to have a bunch of people getting houses that somebody else is subsidizing. So don't buy anything new because that'll also bring the prices down. Keep your powder dry. Just wait. Don't jump into the market now. Wait, because I also think this is going to be challenged, and this is going to wind up in the courts, and that's just me. According to who is this guy? How did I not? I usually circle their names. It's Stevens. Who is Stevens? Well, anyway, one of the guys who was quoted in this article, I cannot find his name anywhere. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. But he said, why was this done? The answer is simple. It was to try to narrow the gap in access to credit, especially for minority home buyers who often have lower down payments and lower credit scores. Here it is. This guy, David Stevens, is a former commissioner of the Federal Housing Administration during the Obama administration. So he was there for the whole thing, the whole crash that Sherry just talked about. And he wrote in a social media post, to do this at the onset of the spring market is almost offensive to the market, consumers, and lenders. So there you go. Bill says, just wait. A ton of banks will go under because of the housing market. Too many people will get mortgages that shouldn't get them. Exactly. And then they're going to have to raise how much they're penalizing the people who are doing the right thing. And then more of your money is going to go to this. I'm telling you, they start at $40 and it creeps up and creeps up and creeps up and creeps up. And you're going to be paying people who have good credit and had the money to put down a lot of money on a house. You're going to wind up paying more and more and more extra because you're going to be paying for your mortgage and somebody else's mortgage at the same time. Which, by the way, if they made it into one of those things, like, do you remember Sally Struthers? Remember those old campaigns like in the 80s and 90s that if you give so much money a month, you get a picture of the child you're adopting, right? Remember those? And you get a picture? Hold on. Okay. You get a picture of the child you're adopting and they write you a letter and a thank you. If you show me the person whose house I'm helping to subsidize, maybe it would make it a little bit less offensive. Like at least I know the family or the person whose home I'm subsidizing, and I can see if it's nicer than mine. I can see if they have better furnishings than I do. Maybe invite them over for Thanksgiving, or they can invite me over since I'm paying for their mortgage, or they can write me thank you notes and things like that. That's pretty much what this is. This is like adopting a child back in the day, and you paid for them every month. You paid for a payment for them every month, pay for their medicine and food and stuff and clothing. The gap in home ownership opportunity is real. America is facing a severe shortage of affordable homes for sales combined with excessive demand, causing an imbalance. But convoluting pricing and credit is not the way to solve this problem. No, I think what's going to happen is this act will solve this problem because it's going to crash the housing market. And there's going to be a lot of people, especially people who have second homes in Florida, in the Carolinas, maybe out in ski resorts, those types of things, or down the shore, are going to find themselves not being able to carry both of them. And they're going to have to give one up. And that's going to bring more real estate onto the market. And there's going to be a lot of fire sales. There's going to be a lot of people who are punching out. And for those people who want to buy something, if they hold on and wait until this works its way through the courts and this gets struck down, I think you see a market dip, which I don't think is a bad thing unless you want to sell your home. And then it's a bad thing. All right. Okay. Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I don't know if you saw it, he did an interview with Tucker Carlson on Monday. Now, I did not see it because we were stuck in Florida, so I didn't get to see it. But in this interview, one of the things he talked about was that the United States government, along with foreign government agencies, were granted full access to direct messages of private citizens on Twitter before he took over. I'll say that again. The United States, along with foreign governments, government agencies, were granted full access, that's in quotes, to direct messages of private citizens on Twitter prior to his takeover. They're spying on you. They could read your direct messages. Now, that being said, I'm a big fan of not putting anything in writing that you don't want somebody else to see, right? Or you don't want the government to see. Now I haven't done anything that the government they don't want them to see, but because I'm conservative and because I am outspoken and I'm on social media and I'm on Newsmax and I work on radio and I do these things, they probably am looking at what I say. And because we're all a little bit more conservative, and I'm Catholic too, I'm considered, I'm sure, I'm considered on some terror watch list somewhere, which is ridiculous because I don't have that kind of time. Would never do anything like that. So that is really scary. Whether you have something to hide or not, it's not the point. They're not supposed to be spying on us. Oh, Scott is with us. Scott over on Getter is with us. He's listening while filling up his gas tank. Now, see, Scott, if you were in New Jersey, you would never have to leave the car because they do it for you. It's a beautiful thing. Love it. All right. So here he said he accused his predecessors at Twitter, this is Elon Musk, of allowing U.S. and foreign intelligence agencies to read users' direct messages on the platform, calling it among the most absurd discoveries he made since purchasing Twitter for $44 billion. He told Tucker Carlson the degree to which government agencies effectively had full access to everything that was going on at Twitter blew my mind. I was not aware of that. And then Tucker asked him if that included direct messages. And he said yes, because the DMs aren't encrypted. So now he's moving to create a feature that would give users the option to encrypt direct messages with the hopes of limiting government interference. Musk said he hopes to unveil the new edition. He said later this month, which would be next week, which would be amazing that you can encrypt the messages of an encrypted messenger and then the government can't read them. Okay. I think it's frightening that we have to go to something like that just so the government doesn't spy on us, which they're not legally supposed to be doing. But I guess if Twitter just gives them access, okay. Because I always read the user agreements because I'm that dork, which is why I don't have Facebook Messenger. Because if you read the user agreement, you give them permission to access everything on your phone, including, and what they do is they take your contact list and your friend list and they try to match them up so that they get your friends, then phone number, or whatever information you have in your phone about that person. So I don't do that to my friends, and my friends who did that to me, I hate you. So, I'm sure in the user agreement, it says that they have the right to access your messages, I guess, somewhere. And then you agree to it if you use the platform. Scott says, I believe there is an algorithm. They have a search engine constantly looking on the internet. Of course they do. But the government shouldn't have the right to read my messages to somebody else. That's like opening your mail. You're not allowed to do that. It says right on the mailbox. It's a federal offense. Can't read somebody else's mail. I cannot legally go to my neighbors, open their mailbox, and look at their mail. That's a federal offense to take something out of that mailbox once the mailman put it in there, the mail carrier, excuse me, don't want to be sexist, puts it in there. It's illegal, but not for the government. So he's looking for an encryption. He said, if the encryption option is selected, no one at Twitter can see what you're talking about. He said, you could put a gun to my head and I couldn't tell you. And that's how it should be. He said he has already received, quote, indirect complaints from various agencies about the crackdown. And he said that they're displeased with the move. Well, good. I'm glad the government's displeased. He said, if I got something that was unconstitutional from the US government, my reply would be to send them a copy of the First Amendment and just say, what part of this are we getting wrong? And that's because Elon Musk is a naturalized American. He wanted to be an American. And so he values the Constitution. He values the way this country is supposed to be run. And it took someone like that to buy Twitter in order to give us free speech again, in order to stop the censorship. It's pretty impressive. Sherry says, I only think of it from the police side. If I procure a search warrant for someone who's committing crimes or talking about crimes through DMs, it's really helpful to get those for probable cause. I don't have a problem with that if you obtain a search warrant. Don't get me wrong. If you obtain a search warrant, that's the way it's supposed to be done. You're not supposed, federal government and foreign governments shouldn't be allowed to just tiptoe through my DMs. No, not without a search warrant. Sorry. I'm with you on that one, Sherry. He said, since I've been a heavy Twitter user since 2009, it's sort of like I'm in the matrix. I can see things, do things feel right? Do they not feel right? What tweets am I being shown as recommended? I started to get more and more uneasy about the Twitter situation. I started to feel like something feels wrong and I couldn't place it exactly. It felt like it was drifting in a bad direction, and my conversations with the board and management seemed to confirm my intuition about that, basically. But I was convinced these guys do not care about fixing Twitter, and I had a bad feeling about where it was headed based on the conversations I had with them. So then I was like, you know what? I'll try acquiring it and see if acquiring it is possible. Can you imagine if you could just say, oh, let me see if I could buy it? What if it was at $44 billion or something like that, or $1 million? $44 billion with a B, right? Can you imagine having that much money that, like, if the coffee shop down the street keeps screwing up your order, you just go, you know what? I'm just going to buy it. I'll get this around. I'm going to have this run right. Wow. I love that. Scott says they can snoop your email before it gets to your inbox, so there's no carrier. No, I'm talking about, that was actual mail I was talking about, Scott. Actual mail. They can, yeah, right. There's no carrier person, obviously, but your direct message. It's like when you talk on the phone with somebody, there's no middleman. You're talking on the phone. They don't have the right to listen in on your conversations. They have to get a warrant in order to do that. And the government then places a wiretap or a listening device, whatever the terminology is that you would like to use, in order to listen in on your communications. So there. All right. So that's that. That to me is frightening. So no good news tonight at all. Alex Baldwin being let off. BuzzFeed apparently knew that the dossier was wrong, but they printed it anyway, to influence an election because Trump, evil orange man bad. And the last thing I wanted to ask you while we still have time is an interesting question. Do you think that America is unrecognizable now? Like if your grandparents came back, if they're dead, whatever, do you think they would recognize America? Do you think they would recognize the country this has become? Because I got to tell you, I don't recognize this country from when I was a kid to now. I don't recognize this country. What I was taught in school, none. This country, I think it's changed a lot. Do you think America is on the brink of collapse? So Fox Nation offered American Requiem, which was a series on Fox Nation, which I don't pay to get. I don't have time. I'm still watching. My husband and I are watching TV shows where they're advertising for Christmas. That's how far behind we are on shows. And I'm still watching Mad Men. It's taken us like a year and a half to watch Mad Men. We're finally in the last season. but it takes us a long time. So I don't see myself having the need to add more. So I don't do the Fox Nation thing, but I know people who do. Manhattan Institute senior fellow Chris Rufo said, the America of the 1980s has pretty much vanished. We're now entering a new period of unprecedented economic, societal, and cultural change. And is that a good thing? Because I don't know if it's a good thing. I just don't think it is. The change that is happening, like I get it, you get older, you don't like change. I never have been a big fan of change. I've always been that person, like I like to plan. I'm a big planner. I want everything in its place. Not a big fan of change. Don't come in and move stuff on me. Bothers me. So I don't think it's good, but I think the pace at which the change is happening is overwhelming for a lot of people. And I think that's part of the plan, to just overwhelm people. But I also don't think that the change that we're seeing is good for anybody. I don't think it's good. Everything about America is being torn down. Everything this country used to stand for is being torn down, upended, and we're being told is bad. So I don't think it's good. He said, Heather McDonald, who's a Manhattan Institute senior fellow, said, we're in a very bizarre and unprecedented situation in our civilization today. We are turning on our own legacy and declaring it evil, oppressive, without any redeeming characteristics. And that's very true. Our kids are being taught that America is a terrible, evil place. And instead of talking about the real story of America, which, yeah, a lot of bad things happened, but we also learn from those lessons and fix them and move forward, right? And we redeemed ourselves. And that's the story of this country, is that we change, but we have a guiding set of principles. And kids aren't being taught that. They're even being taught that the guiding set of principles in this country, which overall I think are good, are bad. And America's bad and America's evil. And that in order for America to be good, everyone has to be equal. Not equal, everything has to be equitable. And that's where we go back to the mortgage thing. If you were responsible and you have a high credit score over 680, if you have a lot of money to put down on a home for your mortgage, you're going to be punished. Because that's bad, because you somehow have benefited wrongly, your white privilege or whatever kind of privilege it happens to be, or you're rich. So you are obligated that we're going to take from you and give to the people over here who, for whatever reason, maybe through their own fault, have a lower credit score and can't put as much money down. So you're going to pay to help them buy a home. Because for whatever reason, you're wrong. And so you have to be punished. And they have a whole host of reasons of why you could be bad. But the biggest part of you being bad is because responsibility is bad. Being on time is racist. It's a white thing. Saving money. Oh, well, that's privilege. So they make up all the things that we were taught were good are now bad. So they flipped it all on its head. Scott says, as long as we have nuclear weapons, we should be okay. Yeah, well, everybody's got them now. So good luck with that. And if that happens, I'm just going to go stand in the front lawn and I'm going in the first blast. So I'm going in the first blast. Okay. Among the devastating changes are unbearable living costs, anti-America woke sentimentality in our schools and universities because they're brainwashing our kids, riots in the streets of major U.S. cities. You saw what happened in Philadelphia, where that white woman and her black boyfriend were just beaten and robbed, and their shoes were taken, and the mob descended on them. Look at Chicago, where mobs are just running wild in the streets, and the mayor is defending them. You've got there was a video just of a Target in Philadelphia just being looted, people just running in, and the whole store is totally trashed and just taking anything they want and running out with it. You see Walmart closing in Chicago, REI closing in Portland. And then what happens is the people who live in these cities go, wait a minute, we don't have anywhere to buy groceries. There's no pharmacies. It's racist. It's because white people won't have it. It's big, horrible, evil corporations won't put their stores in the inner city because they're racist. No, it's because you stole everything and they couldn't afford to stay here anymore. And so that's going on. That's a huge decline. I don't ever remember cities in this country being like this ever before. I don't think it's ever been this way before. The emboldening of the nation's greatest adversaries, including Russia and China. Vanderbilt and Princeton professor Dr. Carol Swain, who you would assume is probably pretty liberal, professor, Ivy League, hand in hand, liberal. The gas prices, the housing crisis, the crisis with education, with healthcare, it's one crisis after another. And when she said that, I was like, Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter went from crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis. Obama went from crisis to crisis. That's what they do. That's what the Democrats do. They govern from crisis. Everything's a crisis. And now with the crisis, if we don't change this, if you don't do what we say you need to do, it's the end of democracy. Everything now is the end of democracy. Ever notice that? That's the new tagline. It's the end of democracy. And if you, but the left is going to save us. We have to give them, we have to vote them into power. We have to give them everything that we want, and we let them spend money on what they want to spend money on. Otherwise, it's the end of democracy. And it's the opposite. They're absolutely gaslighting us, people. Let's see. Okay, there's 3 series in the episode. There's 3 episodes in this series: crime, division, demoralization, and how and the way each element continues to run riot could signal a possible collapse of American society as a whole. People have lost the hope that the future for America will be brighter than the past. I think that that's really true. You know, think about it. If you're Catholic, the FBI or DOJ allegedly, now they're denying it, but there was paperwork gotten, I believe, or there were emails talking about spying on Catholics, the radical traditional Catholics. I met a priest when we were flying home on Tuesday morning, and he's Irish, and he's at a seminary in Virginia, and he's in the Tridentine path of Catholicism, which is the traditional Latin Mass. Well, our DOJ considers them a terrorist group. So they want to spy on Catholics, get people into the organizations. Gretchen Whitmer, didn't we find out that the FBI was working with the Americans in helping them to plot, the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer? And if it weren't for the FBI, those guys probably wouldn't have done what they did. But they helped them to entrap them. Scary stuff. The chain of civilization is only as strong as its weakest link, and all the values have to be passed on in their entirety from one generation to the other, according to Victor Davis Hanson, who, by the way, is an incredibly brilliant guy. So I hate to say it, I hate to be that doomsday guy, but I think they're right. I think you keep hearing that too. That's another thing. We're always on the tipping point. We're on the precipice. We're always on a tipping point. America's on a tipping point. So I hear that, and I think, yeah, what I'm seeing happening, it's kind of scary, especially in our cities, what's going on. But then I see young people who are the rebels who are pushing back against all this stuff. And I think, maybe we're not at the tipping point. I see some Black people who said they've been red pilled, and they're like, wait, no. This isn't making any sense. I think you see people, maybe they've pushed so far that people are starting to wake up when you talk about the kids with school. And I'm not one of those people who sees the glass half full. I'm a glass half empty kind of gal, 100%. Can't help it. But I wonder if they've pushed too hard, too fast, and people are now pushing back. And so maybe there is a path back to the way it used to be. I don't know. I think if Biden gets reelected, which he's expected to announce his reelection on the Tuesday, that he's going to be running again, he'll just be. I mean, in other words, he'll be returning to his basement. And he wins again. I think we're done. I think this country's done. I think we're on the way to socialism, especially since they've been packing the courts, et cetera. And with so many kids coming out of college is so brainwashed, such socialists screaming and screaming and screaming for socialism. The mob, they've managed to, they have a mob. Whether they can control the mob now, I don't know. I don't think they can. I think it's going to get out of control, the mob. So I don't know. But I do think there's a little tiny glimmer of hope that maybe we go back. We start to right the ship a little bit. So I want to give you a little bit of hope there. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to get out of here. But programming note. Saturday, I will be on the Wendy Bell Show at 4:30 on Newsmax TV, 4:30 Eastern Time in the afternoon. And on Sunday, it will air at 3:30 in the afternoon. And it will air again on Monday morning at 6 a.m. So 3 times you can watch the Wendy Bell Show. I will be there with Bill Spadia and Dan. What's Dan's name? Dan O'Donnell. I totally blanked on Dan's name. So it's me and the boys with Wendy. So 2 women, it's half and half. We did 50-50. And it's a fun conversation about your Second Amendment rights. So you don't want to miss that. And then Tuesday, of course, we'll be here with Life with Mary Walter, a non-political podcast. I am working on some guests for some upcoming shows. Like I said, I was supposed to have a guest host tonight, and that kind of fell through, but that's all right. We had a good time. So thank you for your participation. I really appreciate you. I hope you understand that and you know that. Have a fantastic weekend. And like I said, we will be back here on Tuesday, and then the Wendy Bell Show. Oh, and Chris Salcedo Show on Monday on Newsmax between 4:30 and 5 o'clock. That's what I forgot. I was trying to remember. That's what I forgot is Monday on the Chris Salcedo Show, and then Tuesday back here on Life with Mary Walter. Have a fantabulous weekend, and I will see you then. Bye.
You're listening to Mary Walter.
Imagination and courage and perseverance.